Well, Lust for Life was actually the first track I wrote for the record. And I wrote it the day after I finished my record before that. But what I ended up wanting for it was a little bit of a girl group feel, like a little bit of a Shangri-La feel, with that spoken word for the verse. But so, yeah, with Love and Lust for Life, I kind of started to change the aesthetic of the record into something that was a little bit, I would say just a little bit brighter. Not more pop necessarily, but a little bit like rosier in its hue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can feel it. I also like the girl group reference, and I was thinking about when I was thinking about the record as a whole, I was sort of thinking about the Shirelles version of "Will You Love Me Tomorrow?"
Really?
Yeah, because it's sort of it makes sense as a reference because it's people working out thoughts that are confusing, but in this really mature way.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and you can read, like, that's what was happening at that time. Like, ideas were being expressed in music that people couldn't talk about necessarily with their classmates or their parents, but
Yeah.
would hear on the radio and identify with. And I think that's something that you touch on with your fan base so much.
That's a really good point. That is so true about like the dawn of rock and why it was so appealing.
Yeah. Let's listen to a little bit of Lust for Life, then, the title track. You've got some really wonderful cameos on the album.
I do.
A$AP Rocky, Sean
Lennon.
Playboy Cardi.
Yes.
And I want to talk about Stevie Nicks.
Yes.
So she sings on Beautiful People, Beautiful Problems.
Yeah.
There's such a great interplay between your two voices, like the fact that you open the song and then she comes in. You can really hear like the saltiness in her voice in a different way, I think.
I know.
In the juxtaposition of it.
Yeah.
And you had her raw, you're really involved in mastering your own music, I know, too, and mixing it. And so
Yep.
you have your hands on her raw vocals.
Yes.
What's that like?
That was actually nerve-wracking. I called her more than once about that to keep on checking if she was sure she liked her take. And she was so easy. I mean, she was happy with everything.
Huh.
She really liked that song. And actually, funny enough, I had wanted her to open the song because, you know, she's Stevie. But she didn't want to. She wanted to take the second verse and step into it. So, yeah, she was full of surprises. She gave me a little gold and diamond H because she always joked about how when I got older, I would live in the H and she would live in the W of the Hollywood side. Turn it into a little A-frame house. I was like, really? Let's do it.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Let's listen to a piece of the song that you did together. This is Beautiful People, Beautiful Problems. A bit of Beautiful People, Beautiful Problems. Stevie Nicks appearing on Lana Del Rey's latest record called Lust for Life. When you first met her in the studio, what was going through your mind?
Well, at first I FaceTimed her. And I just asked her if she wanted to do it. And I just thought it was probably 50-50, like she could say no. And she just said she had already heard it, and it was a definite yes. But that she had been touring she had done something like 100 and something shows, and that she was not feeling well. So she wanted to stay in New York, because I do day on, day off, day on, day off. But they just do like days on. So Rick actually flew to Electric Lady Studios.
Rick is your producer.
Sorry,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he started recording her first there and kind of Skyped me in. And then he flew back the next day, and then Stevie got done with her tour the next week and came in, and I think she re-sang almost everything in our studio in Santa Monica. So she was amazing. She kind of flew in all in black with like gold accents everywhere. Like her hair was gold, her glasses were gold, she had gold rings on every finger, and I was like in my flannel and sweatpants because I was exhausted at the end of the recording process, and I was like, oh my God, why did I not dress up for Stevie Nicks? That's what I remember. And then I remember so many different things about that session. I was way more, she wanted me to go in and do something at the end, like a little ooh thing, like a little tag. And I got on the microphone and I had like red light fever because she was watching me. And I did it and I said, that was bad. My voice was breaking. And she's like, I like that it was breaking. I'm gonna try and do it like you now. And I was like, all right, you know. But yeah, it was just great to be in the same room.
It sounds like she was so supportive, like so into what you were doing.
She's one of the first women I've met who, Courtney Love is like that. Like she just, everything I do, she's just like, that's great. It's interesting. It's not always the people that you think. A lot of the times it's the tough girls who actually, you know, are real, like, girls.
You and Stevie Nicks have called each other witchy sisters. What does that mean?
I think it means having like a bit of a mystical side, you know, having a perspective musically where you take everything into account, not just like your interactions, but like you can read between the lines of when you meet people, how they're feeling, how you're feeling. And I think it's being able to sort of pick up on things like that sixth sense kind of thing that can help really. Like Jeff Buckley was a little like that, I think. I kind of think it's just about having a real sensitivity.
Yeah.
Yeah, having a lot of feelers out there and being able to pick everything up in the atmosphere.
Lana Del Rey is my guest here on the World Cafe. Her latest record is called Lust for Life. There's a lot of energy that floats around you being a famous person as you are.
Yes, there is.
A very famous person. And sometimes, I mean, when I was getting ready to talk to you, just sort of doing the trolling that you do and seeing, seeing some of the videos and things that you put up with where you're walking through an airport and there's flashbulbs going off everywhere and your life is basically happening in like a strobe light disco.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the song 13 Beaches, which I think captures that, right? Tell me a little bit about the inception of this song.
So I love this song on my last record. Yeah, I mean, gosh, call it luxury problems, but it's about passing every beach from Santa Monica until you get to Ventura, 13 beaches, that's where the paparazzi stop. And so it's about finding that place where you can just be quiet. And there's so many layers to the song for me, like this idea of dripping peaches kind of reminded me of a Dali painting, and I'd have to sort of sing it to make it make sense.
Well, you can if you want to. We'll play it in a minute,
God.
if that helps you.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Would you say that the opening line of this song I really love, and it hit me like really hard? Would you just say the opening lyrics of the song?
Yeah. It took 13 beaches. I do actually have to sing it, I think.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
It took 13 beaches to find one empty, but finally it's mine. With dripping peaches, I'm camera ready almost all the time. Yeah.
Thank you.
I did actually have to sing it to remember it.
That's beautiful, but it's so, and anybody who can't relate to the...
Right. It's a unique sentiment.
Yeah. Oh, but what I took it as a really universal sentiment.
You did?
Yeah, for sure. Especially, I don't belong in the world. Something separates me from other people. Like, you don't have to be a famous person to feel the isolation of looking through many different places to find a place that feels like it's yours.
That's true.
And I was wondering if it was entirely about fame or if it was also sort of about finding your place or feeling like outside of something.
Well, my intention with that song was literally finding one quiet physical place to spread out on, like, and just be without anybody looking at me, especially on a beach when I'm in a bathing suit. But for me, it was kind of about doing whatever it takes to find that quiet place, no matter how far you have to drive. Because I know for me, my songs really do come to me when I'm, like in nature and usually by myself, at least the beginning of them. So for me, it was sort of like another commitment to finding that place where I can be creative.
Can you remember the first time that you would have found a place by yourself, like when you were a teenager or when you were starting out songwriting, like the first place that you were like, oh, this is a me space that I can be creative in the way that I need to be?
I do, and I actually incorporated the word into this particular song, funny enough. I'm from the North Country, up in Lake Placid, and so for me, you know, my mother was always telling me, like, you know, I could never come home after school. I was always like, stay outside until it's dark. So for me, it was in the pines, in the pine trees. You know, we were in the, they call it the 46ers. Our town was surrounded by 46 of some of the tallest peaks in the nation. And so just go to the mountains and climb trees. And so for me, it was a lot of like stargazing, lying on trees. It was kind of picturesque in that way. So that's why I actually took a little liberty in that song that we're talking about, 13 Beaches, in the second verse where I say, but you still can find me if you ask nicely, underneath the pines with the daisies feeling hazy in the ballroom of my mind. But there's no pines on the beach. It's actually Monterey cypress. But I added pines because it reminded me of the first time that I needed to find that quiet place. And I'm very dorky in that way. I'm a big like tree lover. So who knew?
Who knew?
Trees were such an inspiration.
Well, let's listen to that part of the song then. This is a bit of 13 Beaches. There is something to be said for, especially when you live the kind of life that you live with people being bonkers. I read that you had people break into your house. Mm-hmm. That's got to be the most terrifying thing in the world.
It's been a lot, yeah.
So, first of all, what are people looking for when they invade your personal space like that?
It's been different every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that's scary.
It's been different every time. But, you know, this is not every artist's, like, reality. It really isn't. I have a bunch of, like, girlfriends and, like, a couple rappers I'm close with in music, and they're kind of like, they're just like, what happened this week? You know? It's just this... It's just this thing.
It's so weird though, and it feels like it's very particular to you because there are lots of people who manage to go through a career and not have that.
Absolutely. In fact, when I played for Eddie Vedder at his Ohana Fest, he actually came up to me and he was like, "How you doing?" And I was like, "Yeah, pretty good." He was like, "I bet it is pretty crazy for you." And I was like, "You know what? It's been a lot." And he was like, he recounted a couple of stories, told me about a few times he had to move. And he said, you know, it's not everybody, and it doesn't really mean that you're like better or worse than any other artist. It's just a particular type of, I don't want to say an audience. I think it's just, it really could be like a combination of timing and genre and just personality. I don't know.
Yeah, and it also, I think that the kind of music, I guess I could see a similarity with Eddie Vedder too, like where people really feel like they know you or like you owe them something that is personal and so feel like entitled to be in your space. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the way I've come to see it over the last 7 years is like I think they're just the people who are interested are very interested and they would love to just be in the house, you know? It's not like they take anything. It's just like they love to just see what's on the wall. It's like
you're like, you're freaking me out.
Yeah,
You could've just asked me.
I can laugh now, which is so good. It took me a minute because it's been a bit of an ongoing, you know, thing, but you know, like I just really have come to terms with the fact that I'm just in such a unique situation, and you know, I just have to step up my game when it comes to like my perspective on it. You know, I need a lot of help. I call a lot of people, especially when stuff goes down. I'm like, you know, this happened today. It was crazy.
Who's your go-to person?
You know who I am very good friends with, actually, is one of my best friends is Father John Misty's wife, Emma Tillman.
Whoa.
She's my go-to. She's like very balanced, and she's a photographer and a director in her own right, but like in a way that's, we have a similar, we have a more grounded, well, it'd be weird to call my perspective grounded. Mine starts that way, but I have a real like kinship with her. My sister, Chuck, I can call. Stella, my friend Stella. So yeah, those are all people I can call. And I mean, I could call Abel, I think, and tell him.
The
you know,
Weeknd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The Weeknd. I could call him, or I would call Courtney.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's another person who's like, I mean, anything you can picture happening, it's happened to her, obviously.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the best advice that you get about moving through that or making it okay? Like, can somebody say
Well,
something?
someone like Courtney, like, just doesn't care.
Yeah.
She's just like, screw it. You know, like, no. But my best advice would just be like, the easiest thing you could let happen would be to let your world get smaller, you know, or like get that house on top of a mountain, you know. But really what you have to do is ground everything and like just say, screw it, get the house in the middle of the town, you know, just be like, all right, we're here, we're doing this. And everybody knows.
Wow.
And you just kind of like everybody else, except that everyone knows who you are at the coffee shop. And that's okay.
Lana Del Rey is my guest here on the World Cafe. Her latest record is called Lust for Life. I read a tweet that you sent around the Women's March that happened just this year, so the 1-year anniversary, I guess, of the inaugural Women's March on Washington, that you had dropped your sister off, but didn't feel like you could go because it would be a distraction maybe to the women who you were bringing there who wanted to be there.
Yeah.
I would think that that's incredibly disappointing.
I was a little disappointed in myself for that. That was last year's Women's March. I dropped my sister off and I started it, but it quickly became distracting with the younger girls marching. It sort of became like a little yarn ball around me. I thought, you know, it's not about me. It's not about a famous person marching today. So I but back in our van and I waited. But again, I will say sometimes it is a little different when I'm around, you know, the energy changes. But that being said, I would say there's a time and a place for everything, and there's no reason why next year I couldn't be right in the middle and feel comfortable. But it really just depends on the moment. You can tell right away whether something's going to work or not. Like, that day it didn't work.
Yeah, but it's generous to not want it to be about you, like to want people to have their experience that isn't distracted by...
No, yeah. It wouldn't have gelled well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the last year, a good handful of women who make music have sat here with me, and we've talked about, and it's been such an interesting year to talk about what this all means. And we had First Aid Kit and Tori Amos recently, and when St. Vincent was right there, we were talking about the sort of latex costume that she wears on stage, where she looks like Wonder Woman, Catwoman.
I've seen that. I've seen her in that.
It's incredible, and we were talking about it, and she said that it makes her feel incredibly powerful. And then she said, this is a quote, "This is what feminism is getting to decide what power looks like for you."
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Well, it reminded me of your attitude, or at least what I've heard in your music, which is sort of unabashed saying what you need to say. And I think that that's a very powerful thing, and I think that's the point.
I would say with my stuff, in a way I did what I had to do in terms of like chronicling my own stories. You know, I wasn't happy with how a lot of my own story went up until recently, so I didn't always like the way I was putting things, but it was just the way it was, you know? So I don't know if that's feminism, but it is what it was. I think for me, one of the issues I had over the last 10 years was there weren't that many options to be super vocal and powerful without a lot of backlash and repercussions. That was in my own personal life. I felt it was a very male-dominated environment at certain times. But I do feel that's why I think this whole movement is so important, because like the people who don't get the Me Too movement are just, I don't get them. I don't get those people. It's like, have you not been like, do you not get how hard it is sometimes just to sort of be safe and have your own voice as a woman? I think it's really interesting to me.
Lana Del Rey is my guest here on the World Cafe. Her latest record is called Lust for Life. I wanted to ask you about the song Ultraviolence, the title track from 2014.
Yeah.
And the lyric, he hit me and it felt like a kiss.
Yeah.
Which in 2014 might have felt like a really different thing to sing than it is now. And first I want to say that what I really appreciate about that and about the movement in general right now is that a lot of behaviors or things that are normalized,
Right.
women are realizing are not normal.
I would totally agree with that.
And so, yeah, so when I noticed that the song hasn't shown up on a lot of set lists recently, but you played it, we're recording this the day after your show in Philly, and you played it last night. What made you want to sing it last night?
I usually bring it back every third show. That's the part of my show where I switch it up with one of 5 songs. Actually, it's usually just about whether I can hit some of the notes. It's kind of as simple as that. Or if I want to sing the line. Sometimes I don't.
What does it feel like to sing it or to hear it sung back to you? Like, does it feel different than it used to?
Yeah. Now?
Yeah.
I don't like singing it.
What I appreciate about it is that it's an artifact of something that might have made sense at a time.
I'll say.
Yeah. Does it take you back to something in your own memory, or where did you see that? Like, did you see that modeled somewhere?
It takes me back to a general perspective on, I guess, I would say I didn't have a great reference for what a really nurturing relationship would look like. Mm-hmm. And that I kind of realized that was going to have to start with me just imagining what that would be like, and then meeting other people who had relationships like that. So I had to grow a lot for that, not to feel like a comfortable song to sing. But luckily, I've done that.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Let's hear a little bit of it. That's some Ultraviolence, Lana Del Rey. She's my guest here on the World Cafe. That's the title track from her 2014 record. Her latest is called Lust for Life. There's a huge difference between condoning something and reflecting something, which is why I think it was important to talk about ultraviolence. Like, there's a very big difference between...
I agree.
But yeah, and I wouldn't want... So
I agree. I think that's why I was upset with, I had a really tough interview with Rolling Stone that year where they were, hammering me on that song. And I was like, look, buddy, you want me on the cover or not? It's just, you heard it already. You heard all the music already. So, hey, I mean, I have to own my part in all of it. And it's I'm the one who wrote it, so I've got to answer the tough questions about it.
Right.
But I definitely felt when it came to that song in particular, or I had a really tough interview with the Fader magazine that same year where this guy was hammering me on feminism and the word, and I knew he wanted me to say I'm not a feminist. He was just jabbing away at it. And what I wanted to say is this is just my experience in my own relationships this far. It's not going to be my full story, but I mean, that's why, I've been polarizing, because people don't want to look at the broader picture sometimes. They want to just stick to the facts. But that's been a really good lesson for me, because I think when I was younger, I thought, I'm not going to edit my own music. This is just what came out. And now I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm not going to say that. I'm going to edit that,
For the protection of you or for people who are hearing it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like I have to tell every particular detail. I think I was just so used to chronicling everything diary style, giving it to Rick Knowles and being like, here, write the music. And then that would be what we got. But yet I learned now I can kind of edit myself.
Last time you were in Philly also, you opened your set with the song Cola, which I know is not, has been retired. Why did you decide to retire it from live performance?
I mean, I didn't see a way that I could really sing that song with people thinking it was about Harvey Weinstein.
So, right. So there's a Harvey line reference, Harvey's in the Sky with Diamonds. Was it originally about Harvey Weinstein or a type? Or what did that name represent?
It was about an archetypal person. with diamonds was like, it was like a Harry Winston reference, and Harvey was a Harvey Weinstein reference.
Yeah, we get it. It's evocative. Had you ever met him before?
Yes, I worked with him over a number of years on films.
Did you have a spidey sense?
Well, he was flirtatious, I would say.
Yeah. That's one of those things, too, where when you're somebody who operates on another level or has a sixth sense about things, that sometimes...
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Lana Del Rey is my guest here on the World Cafe. Her latest record is called Lust for Life. I want to talk about the song that ends the record, Get Free.
Get free.
Get free. This is my commitment, my modern manifesto. I'm doing it for all of us who never got the chance. What never got the chance to what?
For Amy and for Whitney and all my birds of paradise who never got to fly at night because they were caught up in the dance. It's about people who don't get to reach their full potential because they let controlling people stop them from being free.
Amy Winehouse, Whitney Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it also has a line that's so evocative. I want to move out of the black and into the blue.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering what the black is and what the blue is.
Well, in my head, the black was negative thinking and the blue was a bit of a retreat into nature. So visually, I was thinking the ocean, but also just the connotation of the words, you know. Blue, for me, I think of the sky, like a new horizon, something fresher.
What's the key to getting free before we listen to the song?
I think going deeper, you know, knowing that you're your own doorway to the answers and not looking for answers in other people. Sort of taking the time to get to know yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for this interview.